1 sec so I can just add to them. 4 senators here, both political parties, spent the morning working to build bridges, not throw wrenches.
So how likely is a deal by August?
Welcome back to the show. We have our top stories today is 4 U.S. senators came all the way to Ottawa in order to fix our relationship with the United States. And you would expect with a country of 41 plus million, we would be able to find at least 5 of our absolute best, the best of the best, our geniuses. You are not going to believe who we sent to meet up with these senators. Plus, Canada's deficit spending is going to top almost $100 billion this year. And I did some homework and found out what Canada is planning on spending next year. And this number puts Chrystia Freeland's budget blow up, which resulted in her resigning, look like pocket change. I have David Eby that said something controversial. What else is new? Plus, the Alberta by-election, which is now the longest ballot in Canadian history, has officially reached 152 candidates. That's 48 candidates away from reaching that 200. Just to put things into perspective, the last longest ballot, which was 91, it was a meter long. So this one has already reached 2 meters long. We're going to get into this story. The internet is currently exploding because Elections Canada did something and they are now doing damage control. I got a lot of things to discuss with you today. This is going to be an epic show. Let's go. Let's start today's show off with Pierre Poilievre.
Come from cutting elsewhere, not simply piling up debt. Furthermore, the Prime Minister has not given a single example of something that he would cut, not one program, bureaucracy, nothing. How do you increase spending by hundreds of billions of dollars without a penny in savings and expect to avoid ballooning the deficit? All this has many economists saying that the deficit would be even bigger this year than it was when Trudeau left office. That's right, the supposed tight-fisted banker is running deficits that are even bigger than the spend-happy surfer dude. Hey, at least Trudeau introduced budgets. He never balanced them, but Carney has skipped that step altogether. We've gone from the budget will balance itself to what budget? So here's why Carney's spending spree actually matters to you. The first point is that deficits mean inflation today and tax hikes tomorrow. Governments have no money. Everything they spend comes from you through inflation, taxes, and debt, which is simply delayed taxation. When governments run deficits, they massively increase the supply of money in circulation. That means more dollars chasing fewer goods, which leads to higher prices. That's exactly what happened over the last 5 years when Mr. Carney, acting as Trudeau's economic advisor, pushed for more money printing deficits. That he said it wouldn't cause any inflation, yet we got the worst inflation in 40 years with 2 million people lined up at food banks every single month and an entire generation of young people priced out of homes for the first time in our nation's history.
Now that we've looked at Pierre Poilievre, I've done some homework for all of you. Let's take a look at this new explosive information I have found. I'm a data guy. I love looking at numbers. So I went to Canada's website and found this document that they just released. This is the debt management strategy for next year. This shows us how much debt they're planning on doing. Just for reference, last year, Chrystia Freeland was promising us Canadians that she would stay within her safety guardrail of $40 billion. And she blew past it to $62.5 billion, which resulted in her resigning and Justin Trudeau stepping down. Now we have Mark Carney, and we just found out that he's planning a $94 billion in deficit spending this year alone. Let's see what the plan is for next year. When we go down to this section, sources of borrowing, The aggregate principal amount of money to be borrowed by the government next year is projected to be $623 billion, 76% of which will be used to refinance maturing debt. What? 76%? That means 24% of the borrowing next year is not used to refinance maturing debt. It's brand new debt. This level of borrowing is consistent with the current legislative amount of $2.126 trillion. They show this so that's their kind of debt ceiling that they've approved. But I want to go down and understand how much new borrowing this means. They've provided us this chart, but when you go down, after they've done their calculation, the total amount required, so this is the brand new debt, $147 billion. Holy crap. So Chrystia Freeland had a safety guardrail of $40 billion. We're over $100 billion over that figure. This is a debt explosion. I also want to show you this chart. This is our national deficit. It shows the projections. So the total market debt. In 2021, it was $1.2 trillion. And next year, it's projected to increase to $1.6 trillion. And get this, all of this 76% of the debt that's rolling over is renewing at a significantly higher interest rate than it was obtained, because it was obtained at 0% interest rate, and now it's renewing at 4%. How much is this going to cost Canadians? I've done some math. It's going to be close to $63 billion in just debt service costs. That means it's larger than all of the health transfers from Ottawa to the provinces for health care. We're getting some wild weather this summer. For the second time this summer, Alberta, the high mountain ranges are getting snow. It's also like 8 degrees and raining in Calgary. Wow, where are those heat records? While Canadians are stuck drinking paper straws, this is what's happening in Pakistan. We have somebody opening up chips. I don't know what they're doing, just throwing everything down the river. That is their garbage pit. This type of thing needs to stop. This is the real problem. They're just treating the rivers like garbage. It looks like Mark Carney was able to secure the very first elbows up license plate. No, just joking. But somebody in Canada was able to get elbows up and slapped it on their car. Would you be seen in public driving around with an elbows up license plate? I have an update on the youth that's responsible for the 71-year-old that was shopping in the morning. They have officially arrested this individual, and I hope he's only 14, but he should be tried as an adult, and they need to throw the book at him. We're moving on to the U.S. senators came to Ottawa, and they were pleading to us Canadians, we love you. We want a relationship with you. Check this out.
First of all, to our friends and neighbors in Canada, the Granite State sends you our greetings and says we miss you, because we know that the instability in our relationship right now has meant that some Canadians have decided to stay away from their favorite American tourist spots, and we hope you will come back. And it's not just that we miss your business, which of course every good business person does, but we miss your friendship. We are a people of shared values. We share geography, to Senator Murkowski's point, shared security interests. In the state of New Hampshire, we have been particularly hard hit by an issue I know that Canada's dealing with, which is the fentanyl crisis. And one of the things we were able to talk with the Prime Minister about was the things we can do together to stop the flow of the precursor chemicals that are used to make fentanyl to our countries, but also the things that we have learned in the United States that we can work on together to stop the demand for fentanyl and help people get better when they do become addicted. At the end of the day, you are our best friends, and the relationship is going through some great strain, but we do think that the framework of the USMCA gives us an opportunity to kind of, in one framework, come together and improve on something that was a great bipartisan success back in 2018, and really work again to strengthen the relationship, bring back some stability and some trust, and move forward, because we are a people of shared values and shared outlook. And I hope very much that we can continue to be the friends that we've always been.
They're here pleading that we can get to a deal. What is the United States looking for exactly? Let's see. Lucknick spells it out for all Canadians to see exactly what the U.S. wants.
Canada is not open to us. They need to open their market. Unless they're willing to open their market, they're going to pay a tariff. That's a simple message the president has. It's fair trade. It's reciprocal trade. Why should we have our country be wide open while theirs is closed? This is an 80-year wrong that President Trump is trying to fix, and our businesses are going to really, really enjoy it. I think the president's going to open between $300 and $400 billion of opportunity for Americans. That's 1.5%, up to 1.5% GDP growth, because the president's going to open all these markets up. You saw it with Vietnam. You saw it with Indonesia. You're going to watch all these other countries decide if they want to do business with America. Let's just open our market up to America. That's opportunity that President Trump is.
Oh, he wants us to open up our markets. What is he talking about, really? We all know it's supply management. You know what the problem with Canada is? We don't acknowledge that the US, we need them. Their economy is $24.5 trillion, and the Canada economy is only $2.2 trillion. Watch Doug Ford say, we are an economic powerhouse. Like, who is he talking to about power?
Even when the steel tariffs or aluminum tariffs, we start onshoring everything. We don't make I-beams here in Ontario, but we have more cranes than the top 10 cities combined that are carrying those I-beams. And that's billions of dollars they're going to lose with aluminum cans, the beer cans, the soda cans. We're bringing companies on board that we're going to manufacture it here, so they don't have to face the 25% tariff on the way down, 25% tariff on the way back. We're encouraging all provinces and territories, start buying Canadian-made vehicles, start buying Canadian-made everything. That will hurt them more than anything at all. We're their number one customer. We do more trade. We do more trade with them, or we buy more products, I should say, off the U.S. than Japan, China, Korea, UK, and France combined. So we are an economic powerhouse, and we don't have to take a backseat to anyone.
He thinks we're an economic superpower and we don't need to back down to anyone. And this is going to blow your mind. While our Canadian politicians are telling us, boycott the United States, only buy Canadian everything, they are, behind the scenes, Canada is buying a record amount of U.S. securities and treasuries. Year to date, we are at $60 billion. Look at the chart. We are saying one thing to the people, but in reality, Canada is buying U.S. We're going to move on to David Eby and take a look at his eyes and what he says.
I just wonder your sense of, do the Americans sort of get it? I ask this because, we've seen some comments from the U.S. ambassador to Canada sort of justifying the president's characterization of Canadians as mean and nasty in the negotiations, expressing frustration over the retaliatory measures, like hauling booze off shelves, which you've done in B.C. I mean, what's your sense of just the depth of the understanding the Americans have about sort of the offense that has been done to Canada here?
I really think that at the leadership levels, there's very little awareness. The ambassador specifically said that Canadians were mean and nasty for not buying American alcohol and for boycotting the U.S. in terms of travel. And at the same time, do they think that Canadians are not going to respond when the president says, I want to turn you into the 51st state and beggar you economically unless you bow to the U.S.? Obviously, Canadians are outraged. I say Canadians stick with it, hold the line. But at the end of the day, Canadians stick with it, hold the line. But at the end of the day, we need to get past that. When the Americans come up to visit in British Columbia, they're saying things like, I'm sorry. Like, we're friends, we're neighbors, we're partners. Canadians feel the same way about everyday Americans. And I think the president is really out on his own on this.
Canadians, do you hear that? David Eby says, stick with it. Hold the line. Where did we hear that before? We have an update from the leaders of the Freedom Convoy, Tamara Lich and Chris Barber. Yesterday, they found out that the Crown has released Crown material, which is trying to give them, get this, 7 years in prison and 8 years for Chris for mischief. You know, mischief where you do donuts in a parking lot and you get in trouble, or you spray paint the side of a wall? Yeah, that type of mischief. They said that this is the worst type of mischief, which demands a 7-year sentence. This is insanity. And what's interesting about what David Eby said is Tamara is getting in trouble for yelling, hold the line, one of those iconic statements. And we just found out about this, and then we hear David Eby repeat the same things. That could result in a 7-year prison sentence in Canada. We all know they're throwing the book at Tamara and Chris because they don't want Canadians rising up against government overreach ever again. But if you look closer at this document, they said the Crown respectfully disagrees that the higher sentencing would create a chill or a fear of participation in political expression. Not only did they think about it, but they're flat out coming out saying, yeah, that's not the case for this. I'm not buying it. Are you? And what is absolutely great to see, and one of the reasons why Pierre Poilievre rose up in the ranks and became the opposition leader is because he represents standing up for Canadians and freedom. So a lot of people across Canada that are conservative were really looking for Pierre to voice his concern over this new information. He wasn't quick, but he did the right thing. Breaking, Pierre Poilievre slams prosecutors over Tamara and Chris's sentencing demands. He outlines that there are worse things that are occurring across this country, so the consequences do not match what it is for mischief. How is this justice? Good on you, Pierre, for doing the right thing. Let's move on to the by-election. This thing is getting out of control. I went ahead and counted how many people are now candidates for a total of 152 people. There's 6 days left on this thing. They're probably going to get to their 200 names on the ballot. Just so people are aware, the longest ever was 91. This is going to be far exceeding that by almost double. And the 91 names resulted in a 1 meter long piece of paper. This is surely going to be 2 meters long. How long is it going to take them to count 2 meter long pieces of paper? How many jammed machines are there going to be? We might not find out the results until Christmas. Given how out of control the entire situation has become, you would expect Elections Canada to come out and say, we're fixing this, we're sorry, this is getting out of hand. But instead, they posted this. Interested in becoming a candidate in the upcoming federal by-election in Battle River, Crawford? Learn how. What? They're literally promoting to become a candidate. And look, 121,000 people viewed this. And get this, people are furious. They're like, you are doing the opposite. You're throwing gasoline on the situation. They had to do damage control. Here's what they posted, because it looks like they got tens of thousands of messages from angry Canadians. We have received feedback, oh really, about the number of candidates running in the Battle River Crawford by-election. The Chief Electoral Officer shares election concerns, and we are looking at ways to simplify things for them within the confines of the Canadian Elections Act. Let's look at number 2 here. As outlined in the Canadian Elections Act, any potential candidate that has fulfilled all conditions for candidacy can run. Only Canadian citizens over the age of 18 can become a candidate. The Chief Electoral Officer has previously shared his concerns with the members of Parliament and is looking forward to discussing this issue again at their convenience. So basically, they're trying to backwalk what they did earlier. Are you buying it, Canada? I don't think this is good enough. And they're trying to blame Ottawa for this debacle. We have a CTV headline that says eating this ultra-processed food may be good for you and the planet. This is what this is. Chicken and pork can be recreated using plants. Are you going to be eating this ultra-processed food because it might be good for you? This is a reminder not to believe everything you read in the paper. Remember at the beginning, I said that the U.S. senators came to Canada to repair our relationship, and we sent our absolute best. This is a picture of the senators with Canada's top talent. We have Squeaky and Jolie. Please help us, Canada. Don't tell me this is who we sent to meet them. Well, clearly this is. Look, they're in a photo. A new report that just came out from Statistics Canada showing that immigration, so people leaving Canada, 27,000 people immigrated permanently leaving the country. That's up from 25,300 in the first quarter of 2022. So people are literally packing their bags. And how many of those people were doctors or the top tech people in this country? Because those are normally the people that have the financial means to just look at this and say, you know what? I'm out. Mark Carney and all the premiers got together today. And what did we learn out of this meeting? Empty slogans, man.
Canadians can be our own best customer, and we're making sure that's the case. And we can give ourselves far more than anyone else can take away and control our destiny together and build. I look forward to the discussion. Premier Ford, thank you for indulging me, and I'll...
In a nutshell, that's what we learned. All of the same talking points are on repeat over and over and over again. Here we have Doug Ford basically suck up. It's like disgusting to watch. He's just smooching and saying all the right things for Mark Carney.
We don't have to take a back seat to anyone in the world, and we sure the heck don't have to take a back seat to President Trump. Again, Prime Minister, I want to thank you for joining us for this FMM. It's refreshing to some of us that have been around this table for some time to have a Prime Minister that has our backs, that are out there. He's a great community builder, and he's a brilliant businessman. And I'm confident that he's going to take the business approach to our federal government that we haven't seen for a long time. So thank you very much, everyone. And I guess let's get started.
Well, hopefully what he's doing is buttering him up so that Mark Carney could remove all of the energy restrictions that his Justin Trudeau did. But Doug's forgetting something. Mark Carney was the advisor to the Liberal government for the last 5 years. He also wrote the Book of Values. So do you actually believe he's going to all of a sudden walk away from all of this? He was the one that designed all of this stuff. Danielle Smith, Doug Ford, and Scott Moe got together and signed this agreement across the provinces saying they're going to start working together in order to build pipelines and to work on critical minerals and be able to ship all of our stuff to the world. And they're looking for other premiers to join in on this pact. David Eby, he's like, oh, hell no. There's going to be zero pipelines going through British Columbia. He is straight up not for prosperity. He's not a team player for Canada. He is preventing. He's prevention. But these individuals are doing this. But listen, it doesn't matter what Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Ontario do. As long as we have the restrictions on our energy from the cap of emissions, EV mandates, restrictions to tankers, like all of these things that are preventing us from being prosperous. Unless they're removed, it doesn't matter what kind of pacts are made. That's what's holding us back. Here we have Mark Carney today at the First Minister's meeting, and I have to warn you, he really doesn't want to have this trade deal with the United States, because that would mean we would have to give up supply management and all of the other things that the US, they want tariff-free everything. And it appears that Canada doesn't want to participate in that.
We will have a discussion on the current state of negotiations with the United States. I will say that, as you are aware, our senior ministers, my chief of staff, myself, were engaged in continuous discussions. Minister LeBlanc will be reinforcing those discussions over the next few days in Washington with the United States. We are looking for the best deal for Canada. We are only going to accept the best deal for Canada. That is very much informed by our discussions. We understand as well that we all understand that the global trade environment is changing, and there are some countries that are pulling back, that are restricting market access, but there's even more countries that are opening up to market access, and the premiers have helped lead this with individual trade initiatives to Asia, to Europe, with partners around the world, and we are building on those, and part of what we will discuss is how we can be best coordinated to building positive trade relationships with reliable partners.
You know, the U.S. comes here because they want to do a deal with Canada, and it doesn't look like Canada wants to do a deal with the United States. We got some news that the Auditor General will now be doing an audit on the International Students Program. You know, the wild, wild west, where universities would make up their names and have 0 students actually attend class. They just did it so that they could bring people into the country. Yeah, that student program that caused all sorts of chaos. This might take a couple years to do, but I can't wait to find out the report on this one. Canada's got over 3 million temporary residents now in Canada, including 129,000 with expired permits. I guarantee you, Canada has no idea where the expired permit people are. Do you think they know where they are? There's zero plan to deal with this. We're near the end of this episode. This is, in a nutshell, where we are at with this First Minister's meeting, what we got out of it. Canada can be our own best customer, and we're making sure that's the case, Mark Carney said. Let's replace the United States with Canada. Got it. The U.S. is $24.5 trillion economy, and Canada's only $2.2 trillion. Make it make sense. We're going to finish off with this news story.
Now, we heard some comments from Alberta Premier Danielle Smith today on some legislation she wants repealed. Let's take a listen.
He would demonstrate his great support if he would repeal or substantially revise the 9 bad laws that are impacting our investment climate. He hasn't done that yet, but as I've said, we're giving him some time to get into the role. He's got a new legislative session starting up in September, and we'll have a better idea of what kind of revisions he's going to make then.
So, Vashi, is that likely to happen?
Oh, another good question, Renee. I'm not sure is the honest truth, and that is because the legislation that she's referencing, for example, Bill C-69, which was the piece of legislation or the law that overhauled the approval process, for big projects like a pipeline, that was a marquee piece of legislation for the previous government. During the election campaign, the Prime Minister indicated, the now Prime Minister indicated that he would stand by that legislation. In an interview I did with him not long after the election, he conceded that actually he would entertain, if it was necessary, shelving that piece of legislation. Now, we haven't seen anything introduced to repeal it, or the tanker ban, for example, in British Columbia. Another thing that Premier Danielle Smith is asking asking for. Those are additionally, as I referenced in my last answer, big question marks heading into the fall legislative session. They are in particular irritants between Saskatchewan, Alberta, and the federal government, though I would classify them as less of an irritant that you might have seen between those provinces and the previous federal government under Justin Trudeau. Right now, at least, Danielle Smith and Scott Moe are giving Mark Carney more of a benefit of the doubt than they were willing to give Justin Trudeau. How long that lasts remains to be seen.
How long will that last? I think they're giving him the benefit of the doubt because in the population of their provinces are giving the benefit of the doubt. But if there's nothing that occurs by this fall in removing the 9 restrictions, we're going to see a complete turnaround from them, including the population. They'll be like, enough is enough. That's it for today's report. How many people are going to be on the by-election ballot? Is it going to reach 200? And is Mark Carney going to remove all of the restrictions to our economy right now? We are waiting for a fall session in order to see if Mark Carney wants to let our economy breathe. I'll see you on the next report.